Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in. This morning, we are talking. Shall I go for it? Because this was...
Yeah, please do. I really don't know how much I'm going to have to say about this topic.
So, the topic we're going to talk about is how well do you know yourself? So the reason I thought of this is really I think so many of us nowadays are, well, I know that I have been in the past so disconnected from me, from like who I am, that I have been doing things which don't really serve me, which don't energize me. I've been saying yes to doing certain things which I know which actually make me feel really tired, a little bit irritable. And actually, the more I have become self-aware, and know myself, and become more connected to what I know I gives me energy and that serves me well, then just the easier that I can move through life. So let me just give you some examples. So for example, I know now that I absolutely love spending time with people. You know, I love that. However, if I don't then give myself time after I've been hanging out with a lot of people, I get absolutely depleted and my energy just goes bleh, and I'm exhausted, because I've learned that I need to have a period of time after spending time with a lot of people to myself to re-energize, to fill my battery right up. And for many years, I didn't really understand that. So I would sort of push, thinking, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, I can be around a lot of people. But actually, then I couldn't really understand why on earth I was just so exhausted and a little bit irritable. It was because I wasn't giving myself that time afterwards to re-energize. I wrote a little list actually just now of the things that I haven't. So I know that I'm a morning person. I'm definitely a morning person. I love the mornings. So I get stuff done which might be more challenging for me in the mornings, because that's when I operate best. If anybody asks me, I mean, my daughter's been doing this a lot recently. I keep saying to her, don't ask me to do anything after 5 o'clock, because I'm useless. She's been asking me to kind of help her with her revision or go and do something which actually requires a bit of brain power. I'm like, no, I can't do it. I am switched off by then. I'm so much better in the morning. But if we ignore these signs and we try and just push through, then it just makes us feel really crap about ourselves. We kind of lose a little bit of confidence. But so it's about really tuning in to what is us, who is us. I know also that, yes, again, social situations, if I go out, I bloody love going out, but I'll know the next day I need to make sure I've got a really quiet day the following day, because then I can replenish. So really, I think this conversation is about how well do you know yourself? What does energize you? What does deplete your energy? What environments do you thrive best in? What environments perhaps you don't thrive very well in? How can you create a life where you are giving yourself what you need in order to be the best version of yourself?
Yeah. No, I unfortunately haven't written the list, but as you were talking, it made me think of a few things, a couple of similar ones to you. We've had this conversation before, and I think I'm much more of an introvert than you are. I know you need your alone time too, but I feel that I will always, I require a lot of alone time. And unlike you who loves going out, I actually hate going out. if I can get out of it, I will. Now, to clarify, that doesn't mean that when I go out, I don't enjoy it. Of course I do. Once I'm there, I'm fine. And actually, the kind of ironic thing is that I'm very sociable and very, quote, outgoing when I'm at a party or in a social situation. I'm very, I can easily chat to people, and I find that kind of, I find that okay. That said, what I have learned about myself is that I actually cannot fucking bear small talk. I can't bear it. And we all have to do it, but I hate it. I can't bear it.
I'm the same.
Oh my God. And I've been told before that, you know, oh God, you're really intense, or like, oh my God, you know, like sort of over the years, it's been one of those things where, you know, I might have been accused of being the kind of person who wants to have like deep and meaningful conversations. Well, for me, the only conversations I'm actually interested in having and deep and meaningful, I couldn't give a shit about surface stuff. I really couldn't. And unfortunately, that is just one of the things that comes with being a human being. But I try and minimize those kinds of conversations, and that ultimately comes down to who you choose to spend your time with. So I will minimize the amount of time that I spend with people where I have to do that, because it pains me so much. But yeah, I, like you, if I spent time with people, I need a lot of time to recoup my energy. And I will only, if I've got more than one night out a week in the diary, I can't. Like, I can only deal with one thing a week, and any more than that, and it makes me feel miserable. Like if I've got, you know, let's say there's a week where I've got 3 things that I've got to go to, that makes me feel really miserable. But again, I'm fine when I'm there. But I would always, if I have the choice, I would always rather stay in than go out. And I think actually I've discovered that quite a lot of people feel like that too. And again, it's not that I don't love being around people, because I love being around my friends and my family, but I definitely need that time to refuel. And also, what was I going to say? Oh God, I had a point. I can't remember what it was. There was another thing. I know the thing I was going to say about knowing myself. I know one thing about myself, which is that I need a certain amount of sleep. If I do not get a certain amount of sleep, I don't function very well. And if I get less than, say, 5 or 6 hours, I try and get more than that. But if I get less than that, I just do not function. I also know, unlike you, even though my alarm goes off at 5, I would never have described myself as a morning person. I do now, because I get up early and I absolutely love the mornings, but I never, ever, ever find it easy. But what I have learned about myself, and I've known this for a long time, is that when I let myself lie in, I absolutely hate it. Like, I absolutely hate the feeling of lying in. If I lie in late on a weekend, inevitably I will feel shit. It just does something to my whole system that just doesn't agree with me. So that is something I know about myself, that I need a lot of sleep. I mean, we all need a lot of sleep, really. But I think some people can function better on less sleep than others. And I've learned to really prioritize that. And actually, going back to the whole kind of people thing and socializing thing, going back to the kind of only wanting one thing in my diary a week, I've become so much better at saying no to things that I don't want to do, because I used to, like you, I used to say yes to everything. And in fact, when I was in my 20s, before I realized that I was an extroverted introvert, I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, I actually thought there was something deeply wrong with me, because at the time that I'm thinking of, I was living with a friend in London, and basically she was in a relationship with the guy that she's now married to. They have 2 kids. They used to have a lot of people around. I found having lots of people around my flat really stressful. I didn't want to come home from work and find a load of people in the kitchen. And I would take myself into a different room, either into the sitting room or into my bedroom. And I think they all thought I was a complete mental case. And I did too. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why do I not want to be kind of in the thick of it? But again, it's about understanding and learning the kind of person that you are. So that was just another thing that eventually I realized that I was a really big introvert. But I think introversion is one of those things that gets really confused, because people think if you're an introvert, you're kind of like quiet as a mouse and you're like shy and all the rest of it. And that's not me at all. But yeah, so those are a couple of things that I have learned about myself.
I mean, I think it's what is deemed socially acceptable, that we feel that we need to fit into those parameters, and we feel like, yes, we should be really loud, we should be out, we should be this, we should be that, or whatever. But actually, and so we conform, we want to be like everybody else, we want to do those sorts of things. So actually knowing yourself, and it does take time to know yourself, and to what kind of suits you and what makes you thrive and, you know, is good for your well-being. You know, it takes a little bit of discovery and self-awareness. And it's sometimes harder to go against the grain and go, actually, no, it doesn't suit me. I don't want to be doing that. And, you know, because I'm similar, during the week, I really, really am not that interested in going out, you know, just because I like being in bed early. I'd rather get up early. I love doing all my stuff in the morning. And that took a while, because I quite often would say no to things, but it then would worry about, oh gosh, is that, you know, am I missing out? Or it's so you do have to know, but you know, you have to know yourself well to be very steadfast in those decisions. This is what I want to do. If I do go out, and I do bloody love going out, I went out dancing, Lucy, on Saturday night. So I on the spot
Crazy
dancing,
cat.
on the spot, but my knee held up, which was so exciting. But you know, it was in a tent. It was at a little village fair. It was like at a fair. It was gorgeous. But that gave me so much energy. I bloody loved it. Saw lots of people. But then yesterday I didn't see anybody, and I barely talked to anyone. It was great, and I loved it because I needed that. So it really is about just, you know, what I think will be a conversation here is, you know, what gives you energy? What is those things? And it's just having that self-awareness. And you're not going to have that self-awareness unless you truly tune into yourself and you give yourself that time and space to understand yourself. And it obviously, I think, becomes easier as we age, because we've been on this planet a bit longer, and we understand. We've had more experiences of what works and what doesn't. That I often talk to my kids about this, because funny enough, all three of my kids are quite similar. They're all very social, but they all also need, and I think probably most of us actually do this, but they all also need that time to decompress as well. But it's not giving yourself a hard time about that, and then not forcing yourself. It's about not forcing yourself to go and do something if it feels really uncomfortable. And this isn't about avoiding discomfort or avoiding pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. This is more about just understanding yourself better. So, for example, you know, I have always been naturally quite a shy person in social situations. You know, if there's a lot of people in a room I don't know, I've always had that tendency to go and cling to someone I do know, or to hide, or to be quite quiet. And actually, now I know, I'm so aware of that. I literally have to prepare myself before I go to something like in that situation. And I give myself a little pep talk, and I'm, you know, have an awareness now. It's like, no, fuck this. I can do this. It's absolutely fine. And no one would probably even know that is how I'm feeling now, because they're like, oh no, you seem really confident or whatever. But I know that's, you know, I feel uncomfortable. I still feel really bloody uncomfortable. But actually, it's about, like, I know I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I know I'm not going to enjoy that. So what can I do? So I'll have a little pep talk before. I'll stand up straight, shoulders back. It's almost like that it's having that kind of ultra ego of, like, you know, I can do this, and putting yourself in a situation. But for many years, I didn't really know that. So it was so unbearably uncomfortable, and I'd skulk about, and, you know, so it's about giving yourself the tools in those uncomfortable situations, which is going to make it a little bit easier.
I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love, and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their True Hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their True Collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, But the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code PollyW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off.
And also it's about kind of choosing it's about choosing how you spend your time, isn't it? So, I mean, coming back to kind of socializing and stuff, like these days, I much prefer seeing friends during the day. Like I love going for an early walk with a coffee and a chat with a friend one-to-one. And thankfully I have a couple of friends who are very willing to meet for like a really, really early walk. I love doing that. I would much rather see people for something like that than, go out for dinner in the evenings. Like, much prefer it. But yeah, I mean, it is about coming back to that phrase, going against the grain. I think ultimately we are all so fucking worried about what other people are going to think. That one of the top 5 regrets of the dying, in fact, the top regret of the dying, if anyone hasn't read it, read it. It's a book by Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. She had multiple conversations with people who were literally on their deathbeds. And the top regret of the dying was that they did not live a life authentic to who they really were. So really think about that. Really think about that. When I look back over my life, for decades, until very recently, like the last 5 or 6 years, I was living a life that was not authentic to who I really was. And that was in 2 ways. That was allowing myself to be who I really am. And that was also doing things with my life that I didn't really want to be doing, jobs, essentially. These days, it's very different, because I got to a point where I was like, I am not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And yeah, people have fallen by the wayside in the process. That is unfortunately one of the things that happens. But if we continue to live live for everybody else, not ourselves, then we're never going to feel like we are truly being the most authentic version of ourselves. And I really believe, I talk about this on the podcast on social media, that ultimately, as you know, my audience is largely single people. And I think that so often when people think that what they need is a relationship, it's not necessarily that. I think people are actually inside, we're all searching for something that can't actually be filled by a relationship. What we want is to be the fully expressed version of ourselves. And that is what most of us, unfortunately, we are not living in that way. We are not allowing ourselves to become the fully expressed version of ourselves, like who we really are. I mean, an example with me, like I suppose I've always been described as like a bit fucking bonkers in some ways. And I used to suppress that, my kind of crazy side, or my over enthusiasm, the fact that I get really passionate about things, that people used to take the piss out of me for that side of myself. And I've realized by the age of 50 that this is just who I am. I cannot help it. When I go on rants on our Monday Motivations, if I get really passionate about something and I'm like, that is just, it's just who I am. But I've started over the last 5 or 6 years to let that come out, because ultimately when you actually are living in a way that is true to yourself, you attract the right people into your life. Yes, you also repel people. There are people, I'm quite sure, well, I know this from comments on my Instagram, who cannot fucking stand me. That's fine. Because guess what? Nobody is liked by everybody. The end. So if you're trying to live in a way that means everybody will like you, that's just not possible. It is not possible for every single person to like you. There'll always be people who don't, there'll always be people who do, and there'll always be people who don't give a shit either way. But again, the top regret of the dying is that these people on their deathbeds were thinking, I didn't live in a way that was authentic to me. And that is really, really worth thinking about on this Monday morning, the 1st of June.
Absolutely. And that's it, really. It is, you know, do you know what that authentic self is? Who is that authentic self? And it does become a little clearer as we get older, without doubt. But I think also we are so bloody busy rushing around, responding to life, rather than actually really knowing that and thinking about that. So I really would invite everyone to really have a think about that. Maybe write some of the things down, some of your non-negotiables, some of the things which make you and unique and brilliant. It would be so boring if we were all the same. So it's really about finding what really makes you so super uniquely you and energizes you and allows you to thrive. And, you know, all of that sort of, all those things which, you'd say, oh yes, I'm this kind of person who does this. And then often, you know, that is, you know, sometimes they can be stories about yourself, like with me and my shyness, but then sometimes they can be things which really are truly inherently you. And you need to understand that so that you can really thrive and live the life that you want to live. And it is about not caring what people think, and there isn't really, you know, we've got to be aware of how we're trying to fit in as opposed to be ourselves, because that's the reason why we're going against the grain, is just to try and fit in. It's ridiculous, really.
100%. This is just so key. And we shapeshift constantly. It's like I can't say that in front of this person, or I can't be that in front of that person. It's like we're constantly, you know, sort of just shape-shifting according to who we're surrounded with. I mean, like, this is a crazy example, but back when I was a detective, when those words come out of my mouth, I'm like, what? For anyone who doesn't know, I was very, very briefly a detective, and I absolutely fucking hated it. Anyway, I'll never forget when I did that, and you had to be a certain way, and you had to call people by certain names, and you had to wear certain clothes, and you know, I never forget having to go shopping with my sister to get some, like, you know, I don't own smart clothes. Like, you had to sort of wear, you know, trousers. I never wear trousers. I only wear jeans. And it was just such a kind of, the whole thing was just so going against every fiber of my being. And and subsequently, guess what? I think they all thought I was completely insane. And I didn't blame them, because I just I was never gonna fit that shape. It just was never gonna happen. And it, you know, it's so important that we don't hold ourselves back from being who we really are, because if you are suppressing some part of yourself, not only is that not good for yourself, but also it means that, you know, if somebody likes you because of a version that you become when you're around them, then how is that a good thing? Like, it's a pain in the ass for you. And it probably means that they're not actually your person. Because remember, the people that are your true people will love your quirks. They will get you, or they might not get you, but they'll find it funny rather than annoying, or whatever it may be. Like, it's just, I really, really, this is something I feel really passionately about, that we're just, so often we don't allow ourselves to be who we really are. I mean, you know, you and I on social media is a very good example of this, isn't it? Like, how, and it can be really hard to show up on fucking social media and be who you really are, but you just realize that actually, like, when you learn to just, oh, sod it, I'm just going to be me, and some people are going to like it, some people are going to hate it, your life just becomes so much easier. And ultimately you become free when you stop caring. I mean, not that I have stopped caring about what other people think, but I care a lot less. I think it's very difficult to really get to a place where you're like, I don't care. I'm not sure that I will ever get there. But where I've got to is that I care less enough that I do the things that I want to do anyway. And I just go, yes, I know there are going to be people that are rolling their eyes and going, oh my God, who does he think she is? Or what a loser, or what a freak, or whatever. But I'm going to do it anyway, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still very much struggle with this. As, you know, we all, it still feels uncomfortable a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Showing up as being you and just you, because you know, I think there's certain things that we think are revered more, you know, like you've got to be really outgoing, you've got to be this, you've got to be that. And if you don't fit that bill, then you're a bit boring, or it's a bit, you know, whatever it might be. That's been mine. It's like, you know, I'm kind of probably the calmer, the quieter version of someone, not this sort of crazy kind of outgoing person. And, you know, I've always thought, oh, it's probably just a bit dull and a bit boring. But actually, it's me, and that is good enough, you know. And I think you have to really accept that. And when you are you, that is when you're going to shine. That is when you're going to be you're going to affect more people in the long run. But yeah, it's kind of hard, but it takes self-awareness. So this all, as everything does, comes back to awareness about just noticing when you are showing up as someone else, you're not your true self. I've done this all my life. Yeah, as you said, becoming someone for a group of people because you think that's who they want you to be. Bollocks to that. I'm over that now. It's like, no, it's about really building that relationship with yourself, being happy in the skin that you're in, and so that you can then really show up being that version. So yes, fine. Really I think it is a quite good question to think, how well do you know yourself, and how comfortable are you in the skin you're in? And if you're feeling a bit like, oh God, I don't know, then just write a list of all the things that fill you up with energy, and some of those things which absolutely drain you. You know, look through your calendar. Are there things in there which you're absolutely dreading? Or are there lots of things in there which are exciting and feel good? And make sure, you know, is there enough blank space in there for you to replenish and re-energize yourself as well?
Yeah, totally. I do you know what? I just had a final point and then I've completely forgotten what it is. Oh, I know what it was. It was that, you know, one thing that I have, and I suppose I've always felt this to a certain extent, but I actually think it's really boring to be the same as everyone else. How fucking boring to be the same, to look the same, to do the same. Like what? Like who wants to be boring? You know, like it's this whole sort of keeping up with the Joneses thing. It's such a load of shite. And I really do not subscribe to it. And actually, I think, you know, embrace your uniqueness, embrace what makes you different. Mm-hmm. That's what makes you interesting. You know, we don't want to be the same as everybody. Well, maybe I'm sure many of us do want to be. Well, we think we want to be the same as everybody else, but that's because it feels like there's this societal pressure and this expectation. And, oh, what are people going to think if you're different, or you go somehow against the grain? But just turn it around and think, well, I don't want to be the same as everyone else. I actually like being different. Like, lean into that, because that is what makes you authentically you.
Yeah, exactly. It does make me laugh when I see my daughter with her friends. You know, they're all dressed the same. They all just want to be the same. And you see groups of girls, and boys, but they all want to be part of it. And I understand it. It's like this feeling that you need to belong, and that is inherently what us human beings have done for ever, is to be part of a clan, to need to belong, to not stand out, to not be different, because you would have been cast out of your tribe. So we have kind of got this inbuilt desire to be part of a tribe. But it does make me laugh. I do constantly say to my daughter, just go and just be yourself, do something different. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. But I think it's hard. I think there's something in you, I think, which makes it really difficult. But I think as we get older, we understand that so much better. So the earlier we can do that, the better. Just really be ourselves, true to ourselves, unique. And actually, those are the people who often will rise above everything else and everybody else anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right. There
It's
we
9
go.
o'clock.
It is. Somehow we filled it.
I don't know how, but we did.
Yeah. All right. Thank
babe.
you.
Have a
We'll
good
see you next
day.
week. Yeah, you too.
Lots of love.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye.